Alright, so I believe everything's set up. I already tried to record this once, but then I realized the mixing of my FNaF World and mic audio was completely unbalanced, and you could not hear me as soon as I opened FNaF World, which just was not going to work. Um, so here we are with attempt 2. Um, yeah, you read that right. Ideally, 50-second time save, though honestly, I estimate it's probably closer to like 35, 40 seconds, which is still pretty huge. Um, what is on this screen? Um, what you'll see is your character jumps in, and they're talking to Scott here, who progressively becomes more and more like Scott. You know, you know, they go through those animations, right? And I found a way to skip this because, this is what you see. But this doesn't tell the whole story. This is what this screen actually looks like. And there's a whole lot of garbage on here. What we need to focus on is that there's a done button right down here. This done button is really nice because what it can do is it can send us right on to the right onto the Scott fight. And so basically that's been known for a long time, but it's always been thought, yeah, he put it out of reach here. You just can't click it. But TLDR, I found a way to click it. And you always click at frame 1, actually. So it's the entire 50 seconds of time save. But there's a little bit of setup most of the time. You can go for the full 50 seconds, but it's insane. So there's probably a little bit of setup that goes into it. And why don't we just show you what that setup is? So we got our nice FNaF world here, and we're actually gonna have to play in windowed mode. So why don't I just turn on my keyboard high and show you how to do that. Which you're gonna need to see my keyboard anyway. First thing is you press the Windows key and the down key. That turns on Windows mode. Actually, I don't even know if you can see that with how I adjusted my camera, but Windows key and down arrow key turns on Windows mode. And that's very nice. Because now you can move your cursor outside of the window, right? And I've set up this file to be right outside the Scott fight. So you just beat Security Owl, you're feeling pretty nice, and you're going to go skip the Scott fight. What you do, you go walk in and you immediately reset, right? Then you go back in, and this might take me a few tries, but you press Control P here, and then you're not quite ready to, okay, so ideally what you're gonna do is you're going to buffer a click in the loading screen to this frame, because so what it is that this and this and this and this and this, these are all called frames, right? Everything here, all these, they're called frames, right? That's just what they're called. It's how Click Team works. And whenever you move between a frame, there will be a loading screen, right? And the loading screen length, the loading screen length changes depending on how many things you have to load, right? So for something like this, where there's not that many things, it's a pretty short loading screen. But for something like the overworld, where there's a whole ton of things, you get a pretty long loading screen, which is rather intrusive, which is why you make the loading screen frame. Anyway, so back here, you want to buffer a click between the loading screen from the overworld to here, and you want to buffer it here down to about this rectangle here. And when I say this rectangle, I mean a rectangle that's about this big, right? So I have a piece of tape on my screen that covers this rectangle that I'm just outlining. This is where the relative position of the done button. Actually, what I can do is if I zoom in once and match this up, the done button is in right about the point where it would be. Yeah, so this is right about where the done button is. Like so you can see that this window, well, it's a little to the right, but this window just about matches this window, which means everything on here just about matches where it will be on here, which means the done button will be just about here. So you'll want to buffer a click during the loading screen and move it down here. And I'll show you just how short that loading screen is. That's how quick it is. You want to click and move down there during that short of a loading screen. The good thing is you can pause with Control P, and yes, I know my keycaps are not in order. I did that a long time ago. You can buffer a pause with Control P during the load screen. And if you pause during the load screen, that's just because the load screen's made a little weird. So what happens is, obviously, as we know, there's a load before you enter into the frame, right? And then actually what happens is you wait half a second, and then you start loading into the overworld. So it's just an odd thing where actually you're just sitting there waiting to load in for half a second, and in that time you can pause. You're not actually loading anything. But here. So what you want to do is, if you just unpause and click now, you might accidentally delay your click enough to get it right. But if you unpause and click on the same frame, or close to the same frame, it might be like a frame off, you'll actually miss the loading screen. It takes like a frame or two for the loading screen to for you to like enter into the loading screen. So what you want to do is, and I don't get this every time, you want to hit enter and then and then holding down Control, hit P immediately after. Yeah, see, even that was too short, or too long, and I loaded into this screen. That's what you don't want to see. So you've got to reset again, and once you do that once, or even twice, I get it sometimes, then you want to unpause and immediately move down there. We'll click and immediately move down there. Just like that. And so now I'll cut ahead to when I get that. Oh, there's one. I'm gonna go for it. So I got this set up there because you see it went away and then immediately came back. And I'm not in the next frame. Yep, see? And there you go. You'll see I went into the loading screen instead of Scott, and then here we are at the Scott fight. And that only took a couple of resets. Last time when I did this, it it took me like 30 minutes of resets. And so my point in saying that is that at that time, I would have saved time with it even. I improved very rapidly when doing this. This is something that can be practiced. This is something you will improve on. I've tried this on different versions. I haven't seen any discrepancy. I just did this on 1.24 just to show that it is still functioning in the newest version, even though I always play in 1.2. Other than that, I'll make one mention. If we go back in here and pause immediately, while I was doing my testing, I would unpause and repause, and a lot of times I would see the party button down here, and I haven't been seeing that once I started recording, and I have no clue why, and I haven't been able to replicate seeing the party button again, and that just baffles me. So yeah, I have really no clue what that's about, but I do believe that is oh nope, one thing other I wanted to mention. I went looking through the frames, and just in my quick peruse through, I didn't see anything except in here. This is the screen where Fredbear is like, ah, man, the game flopped. I'm working at the Fazburgers down the street. I mean, you could go dig up the Halloween characters from the back of the code. I'll open up a portal for you to the Halloween world. This is that cinematic. The done button's up here. So, you could, in theory, click this done button, again, buffer a click into this done button, and skip this cutscene. That would save a significant amount of time opening up the normal Halloween portal. Off the top of my head, I don't remember any category that does that. But yeah, that's the only other application of this that I can think of right now. One last thing I forgot to mention is actually that how to do this real time, no buffer strats. I don't foresee anyone ever doing this, and if you do, you're the GOAT. But let's just say you're here, you just beat Owl. So what you do is you come up here, and just like that. Like I said, I don't see anyone ever doing that, but that would be real time, no buffer. I'd say go for it. Why not go for it each time in the beginning? Because you gotta go in to save your position anyway. Which is, by the way, I don't think I mentioned it, that's the reason you walk into him. You want to save your position in there, so each time you immediately go into him as soon as possible. And at a consistent enough time. As consistently in time as possible. But yeah, that's the last thing I wanted to mention. And I'll get this video out so we can start saving time. Happy running and good luck.